Greetings. I hope you're doing okay. Um, I'm doing okay. I just wanted to sit down here and make this video because I wanted to try my best to explain a couple of things, okay? um, my coffee. Ken and Linda. Okay, let me make sure that y'all know who I'm talking about, okay? Ken Nichols and Linda Fuqua. All right. Y'all remember them? Okay. It's Linda, and this is Ken. I took this picture myself in 1980. I think Linda had just bought that motorcycle for him, and he would later wreck on it and almost die on it. They were good. They were great people. You know what I mean? I don't want people to think that I'm ungrateful for the life that they gave me for 16 years, because I'm not. I loved them. I still do. But there were a lot of things that led to the demise of our family that were at the hands of our own selves. You know what I mean? I think that there's a misunderstanding about Linda and her religious experience and Ken. Okay? Let me make clear. I was there the entire time. It was me that went to church with Linda. She operated at different times three different churches in her time. Okay? Box Springs and Seagoville, two in Seagoville and one in Box Springs. Two of the worst parts of town that you could possibly be in, but at that time I had no clue because I was young, man. I was in my teens still. But Ken only went to church during their entire marriage once. And there was a photograph of him. It was Easter Sunday. Linda and begged him to come to the Easter Sunday church there. It was over there near Elam Road somewhere. I can't remember. It was a storefront church. Linda found these places that were vacant and she'd rent it out and make it into a church. I would help her, I'd make the curtains, I'd build the pulpit, help build it, I knew how to do a few things at that age. But one thing I did know is to sing. And I attribute that to the music influence that they gave me. So they gave me a lot. They gave me so much art and music and other lessons that, I want people to realize, I've got nothing bad to say past the year or up to the year 1982. 1982, there was an earthquake, a shift in the family. And it seemed like the magnitude of earthquakes, so to speak, family problems and issues and fights and all this other, and drugs and mental illness was coming from Linda's side of the family over in Mesquite. The Fuquas, F-U-Q-U-A. This was Linda's parents, Bud Virgil Fuqua and Rose Fuqua. They were all religious, and they all tried their hands at preaching. I remember I was there the whole time. Linda did it. Her brother Rick did it. Her brother Ken, little Kenny, he was little Kenny. He did it. They were all trying to follow Linda's lead, but they all dropped off. They did it, and they didn't do it for very long. Even her dad got behind the pulpit and preached, And I'm, riding along with her. I had no idea, what was going on. I mean, I knew. I'm not totally dumb, I approached religion with Linda growing up as a history lesson, okay? There's a part of the world, excuse me, there's a part of the world where this man existed. He was a great man. He was a teacher, a builder. He wanted to help people. He wanted to save people from other people's tyranny. Okay? And I realized that. He was murdered for his beliefs. I understand this. Okay? All right? I understood all that. To me, I approached it as a legitimate history lesson. Now, all of the supernatural and spiritual things, I was way too young to understand, and children are way too young at that age to understand. You can't you got a middle-aged person can't understand unless you're attuned to something else, the spiritual world around them. Okay, so I understood. We're gonna calm that down right there. I understood the spiritual world as I knew it as a young person, which wasn't much. Okay, so I was relying on Linda and everybody to provide that. The moment I cut it off was one day we were riding to church, and she was going on and on about this, or so she was going on about something being evil and this thing and this thing over here in this country. And I was like, well, what about, I was curious. At this time I was about in fourth or fifth grade, and I loved history, and I love the Native American history. I know that they have a lot of spirituality in their history and their culture. And I asked her about it, and she looked at her steering wheel, and she hit the gas and went through the intersection, and she said to me, I was like, well, what about the Native Americans and their culture, their beliefs? And she looked at me and said that they were of the devil. That's when I knew that I needed to cut that off. At that age, I knew better. I knew better. I knew better than to disrespect someone's culture like that verbally when I don't have a knowledge of it. Now, the reason why I do that is because Ken and Linda traveled with me from Texas to North Carolina. You know what's in North Carolina? The largest Cherokee reservation and home of Indians. So I grew up. They showed this to me. They showed respect for the Cherokee people. And for her to come back to Texas and say something like that to me in the car when I asked a serious question as a young man trying to grow up and ask serious questions about things, that was the wrong answer. So I knew right then that I needed to cut that off, and I never did ask another question ever again, because all you'd get was a tidal wave of mantra, and I knew that it was wrong. She wasn't wrong. I'm not saying that religion is wrong. I'm saying to you, Linda was wrong. Okay? Now, we're going to fast forward. We lived when Elvis Presley died. It was 1977 of August. I was in the front yard when it happened, when the news broke. I remember this. I have memories of this, okay? Linda comes to the door and crying, Elvis died. Oh my goodness, they talked about that. You remember, they talked about it for months, years. They still talk about it. But at the time, it was something serious, man. Right after that, we moved from Wynwood Village in Oak Cliff. That's Illinois Avenue in Wynwood, Nicholson Drive. We moved from there to Western Park. And it was cool. We were a family. We did everything together. We went to the lake. We fished. We popped fireworks together. We barbecued. We caught fish out of the lake. We cooked them. We knew our neighbors. We experienced all the entertainment that was coming out at the time. The Star Wars was coming on. I was on to it. We went to the movies. We did everything. Little by little, Linda started stepping away from us. When I say us, I mean Ken and me. Okay? All the trips to Sandy Lake Park, Six Flags, the movies, the parks, everything stopped. It halted. Now, I don't know what happened between Linda and Ken personally, but I know now somewhat about what happened. But I know this. Ken told me personally, after the divorce, because I caught back with him in Duncanville, because he had an apartment in Duncanville, and I showed up. I knew where he was. He let me in. I spent the night, and I talked to him, and that's when I told him what had happened, the things that were happening. He was stepping away already, but somewhere around 1983, Linda's dad passed away, and two more of her family members that were close to us passed away, my aunt and uncle on the adopted side. Okay. When I talk about the adopted family, that's the only family I knew because the Parkers and Nichols stayed away. I never saw anybody. Come to find out, when we lived on Brooklyn Avenue when I was 6, that Rebecca, my sister, was across the street. I don't have any memory of seeing my sister at that time. And I know why now. I know why. It wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of her. We'll get to that later. But, so Linda and Ken's nucleus of marriage started to entangle itself because of Linda. Linda involved herself in religion, and it tore her away from Ken. Ken did not go to church. He wasn't having it. He wanted to spend his time working in his garage, on his car, on his motorcycle, doing fun things, going to the lake, watching football games. You know, Ken never abused drugs. I never saw Ken drunk, not one time. Never saw my uncle drunk, never. I saw him, looking back now, I know, that he got buzzed, but I've never seen him. He never was drunk and abusive, never. Only when he got angry, and I made him angry enough to kick my butt, and he did. But those things I deserved most of the time, But anyway, back to Linda and Ken. So their marriage started to deteriorate, man. All of a sudden, Linda brings home this girl named Carla Bell Huber. Carla Bell Huber was working at a nursing home as a registered nurse, and so was Linda, because Linda's mom, Rose, worked at her nursing home in Mesquite. This is how we got in to sing Christmas songs every Christmas to the old people, and that's what we did as a kid. As a kid, I did that every year, and I was in charge of the choir. It was 6 kids underneath me, and I taught them to sing and harmonize and all that. So I was really good at it. I still am, but just not Christian music or Christmas music. But anyway, all of a sudden, Linda brings this person home with her. Linda develops a lesbian relationship with her. I caught them. They never knew that I caught them, but I did. Ken was sleeping in the other room. At this time, they were already separated. They were in the house and they were separated. Linda had my old room. It was a 3-bedroom house. Ken next to me, I'm next to him, and across the hall was Linda in the room with Carla, and they were having sex, and I heard them more than once. Carla lived with us, went on our last family vacation to North Carolina and Tennessee. Linda's sister lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. She's still alive, but her husband's passed on now. But yeah, so this is going on. I think Ken found out about that, and that's when he left. He finally, after a few weeks, he gathered his things and he left, and took off. So that was the end of that marriage. And at the time, Linda left the house and she went to Mesquite, and she met this guy named Jay Kellogg. Okay, Jay Kellogg was a stranger to me. He was 10 years my senior. Linda was in her late 30s at the time. He became the worst thing that ever happened to us, and one of the saving things that happened to Linda. He did some really bad things to me, man. I got accused of attacking Linda, which isn't true. So he lays a trap for me at my own house, which was already broken. I came to the house to get some clothes and get out of there and check on Linda, because for some reason Linda was injured in there because there was a fire, and Linda was caught up in a fire in 1985 with James Kellogg and their little crew over there in Mesquite. It killed a 4-year-old boy, burned him to death, and blew her out the window, broke her back. She couldn't use her right arm anymore. She was on the down. She was in a wheelchair after that. So her meeting Jay and moving out of the house and going over there, she sowed her own destiny right there. There were 2 kids over there. I babysat those 2 kids the day before that happened. It still bothers me when I think about it. The youngest, his name was Brian. He's dead, for Christ's sake. And Linda almost died I came out of wherever the hell I was, and I made my way to the hospital, and there was Ken Nichols. There was Ken and Jay. I couldn't believe it. They were there in support of Linda because she was almost dead. She was dying. Almost killed her. And after that, they sent her home because she started recovering. But she was never the same after that. She lived for 14 years after that. She passed away on July 7th, 2001. And that's another story. But it was the end, man. So I loved Ken and Linda. I don't want anybody, and no one has a right to pass judgment on me or any of my sisters for anything. We're survivors. We made our life. When we weren't asked to be here, we didn't want to be here. We were put here by LaVon and Sybil. I never knew them, and I wish I had have, because LaVon and me, at my age now, we'd have been fighting. I tell you that, I would have knocked him stupid for what he's done. And I would have probably went to jail. But that's the Scot in me. You see, I'm Scottish through and through. American, but I'm Scottish, British. I'm proud of that. That's another thing. Boggles my mind. You know, I'm the only one that I know of that's taken a DNA test in my entire family. And after I did it, Becky did it. You know, and I think Karen did it. And we all found out the same thing. You know, we're Scottish. This so-called Native American Cherokee DNA, it left and it deteriorates over time. Okay, that's what happened to me and my sisters beyond me. We didn't get that blood. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm proud of my Scottish heritage, man. If I could walk around out here with a kilt, I would, and I might do it yet. So I didn't, you know, I loved Ken and Linda. They gave me the best life that I could have gotten. You know, it was all good. Everything was good. Until Linda destroyed it, trying to force her way to do what she did. And then the disaster fire happened, and that was the end of it, man. That was the end of it. They sent Linda home. I came to check on her to pick up some things. Jay Kellogg and another individual that I know from the neighborhood, a bully, was waiting inside my house, and they grabbed me and they threw me on the ground, and he kicked me on the ground and kicked me in my face with Linda sitting right there watching. I got away from him and ran to the kitchen to get a knife because I was going to stab them both. And they had taken all the knives. They had taken everything out of the kitchen that I could use as a weapon. Knowing what I know now, I would have picked up something else and used it on both of them. And after that incident, I got away. Jay and that guy forced me into Jay's car. I was being accused of stealing something, and I told them I didn't do nothing. I ain't stole nothing. You're in my house. What are you doing? You know, after they assaulted me, Jay and this guy forced me into a car by knife point. And I told them to go take me to Loot 12, and I'll show you what happened. And I told them that I did take it, just so I could plan a getaway, and it worked. They stopped. We went down to Loot 12 in the apartments. I knew a girl that lived down there. Her name was Lisa. She was my girlfriend. And the car parked, and I jumped out and slammed the door. Just slammed the door on Mike because I was trying to hurt him so he wouldn't follow me. But he did anyway, but he couldn't keep up. Because I tell you what, at the time I was a champion runner. I could smoke you. I would outrun anybody in the neighborhood. And I outrun Jay and Mike Clevenger to the door. I got in the door. They tried to force their way into the door. And Lisa's father at the time stepped in front of me and said, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to shoot you. Or I'll call the police. And Jay Kellogg and Mike Clevenger took off. And I didn't speak to him for years. I almost pressed charges on him for that. In fact, my friends and stuff were trying to talk me into it. If I'd have done that, Linda wouldn't have had anybody to take care of her, you know what I mean? And at a young age, I was thinking about Linda, not myself. So that's how that happened. And that's a true story. I got nothing to hide and no reason to lie. So, I hope this kind of sheds a little bit of light on a little bit more for y'all. Okay, this is why I ran. This is why I got terrified and frightened when y'all surrounded me at Vaughn's funeral. My half brother that I never knew, who died on drugs. It scared me when y'all surrounded me and started talking about my father like that. You know, I had a flashback of Linda and all of her things that destroyed my family. So y'all need to take in consideration. Please take in consideration, man, my explanation. Okay, I ain't got nothing to hide. I don't want to make things up. I loved them, but Linda destroyed the family, and I know why and how. You know, it's taken me decades to put it together. You know, and it bothers me every day that I don't want to be misunderstood, not by my family, not by anybody. Okay, I'm not a sinner. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't do drugs. I play live music sober, and my bandmates are sober too. And everybody knows it. That's strength. I'm a strong person. I'm even stronger every day. And what shaped me to be a 57-year-old person that's not out of shape and is sober. Sober. I love it. I love being sober. I love the ability to go into a club, you know, and play music and play good music and get paid to do it. I get paid. My band gets paid. I sign a W-2. They pay us. So we've got another show coming up on the 12th and 2 more after that, and we're doing good. I made something myself. I think Ken Nichols would be extremely proud. So would Linda. And I would hope that my family is too, because all I want to do is show my family that I did something with myself, man. That's all. I didn't become a prisoner. I didn't become a drug addict. I didn't die on drugs. I didn't overdose on crack. I never got addicted to drugs. I never liked alcohol, man. I don't like it. I don't like what it stands for, okay? I don't know how prohibition have worked, but I just don't want to be misunderstood, that's all. Peace. And music.